Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started in about 90 seconds here. I know we've got some people that are still logging on. So hang with me real quick. Mitch, just for one more verification, I know you're on with me. Can you see my screen okay?
Yep, gotcha.
All right, sounds good. I know it is right at noon right now, so we'll give it about 60 more seconds to let people log on, and then we'll get started. All righty, we're coming up on 12:01 here, so I'm just going to go ahead and kick this off here. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Tyler Finken. I'm the Health Marketing Director over at Western Marketing. Appreciate your time, taking time out of your busy schedules today to be with us on this webinar. I know we're 4 days away from AEP officially starting, allowing everybody to start taking applications. So I hope everybody is certified and ready to sell and ready to get moving on the 15th. I know we are. So got Mr. Mitch Fink with us today. I'll be introducing him a little bit later, but wanted to kind of give you a real quick overview of what we're going to cover today, and then we'll get this thing really moving here. First is a couple housekeeping items. Everybody should have a panel on the side of their screen there that has a questions or a chat box. If you do have questions at any time during the webinar here, feel free to put them in the questions box there, and Mitch and I will address them at the end of the webinar. We'll try to get everybody's questions answered in a timely manner because we want to make sure that we're cognizant of everybody's time today. If there are questions that we can't answer, I will make sure to get back to you on a one-on-one personal basis. But what we're going to go over today is cross-selling cancer insurance to your Medicare Advantage clients, and kind of get into why we think this is a conversation you need to have with every single person that you sit with during AEP this year. So we're going to go ahead and get moving here. But you might ask yourself, why would somebody buy cancer insurance? Believe it or not, about 3 out of every 4 families will be affected by cancer in some way, shape, or form every single year. A lot of you guys have probably heard a lot of these statistics before, but statistically, 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will have a chance of getting diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. If you ask me, that is an absolutely insane statistic. 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will get diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. Every day you see on the news somebody getting diagnosed with cancer. You have friends or relatives or somebody, possibly yourself, actually getting diagnosed with cancer. I know myself personally, I was diagnosed with cancer 10 years ago at the ripe old age of 23. Luckily, I was one of the fortunate ones that did not have to go through chemo or radiation or anything. I had surgery and I was done with it. And it was 10 years in April. I had, an uncle pass away from cancer in his 30s. So it's really, really hit my family hard. Mitch, I know it's hit your family very, very hard as well. So those statistics are very, very real. And I'm sure that everybody has a personal story that they'd be able to tell about how they were affected with cancer. Today, there are 15.5 million Americans alive today that have been diagnosed with cancer. There are 1.7 million new cases on average diagnosed every year. And what we're going to talk about today is kind of this next stat here. 87% of all cancer occurs in people that are ages 50 and older. And that's kind of why we wanted to have this webinar today, is because a lot of those people are on Medicare, and we think this is the perfect opportunity to talk about and protect your Medicare clients from a cancer diagnosis. There's a lot of out-of-pocket expenses that are associated with cancer that are outside of the medical expenses, and we're going to get into that in a little bit more detail later on in the webinar here. Now, a lot of you guys that are selling Medicare Advantage and Medicare supplements for that matter, you'll have clients say, but my Medicare plan is going to cover the costs associated with cancer. Well, Medicare Advantage in particular are only going to cover some of the medical related expenses associated with cancer. They are not going to cover the deductibles and co-insurance when going through cancer treatments such as chemo, radiation, etc. Your clients are going to have a little bit of co-insurance related to that if they are diagnosed with cancer on a Medicare Advantage plan. There's also experimental medications and treatment that might not be covered, travel expenses, etc. Again, which we're going to cover in more detail in a little bit here. Did you know that policyholders are responsible for 20% of the cost of chemo on a Medicare Advantage plan? A lot of people don't realize that the coinsurance is that high when they get diagnosed with cancer, and you can see there when you're paying for 20% of the cost of chemo going through cancer treatment, you're probably going to hit your out-of-pocket max very, very quickly on a Medicare Advantage plan. The out-of-pocket max on Medicare Advantage plans in network for 2023 is $8,300 this year. Now, a lot of people, $8,300 out of pocket is going to affect them in a major, major way financially. The thing that a lot of people don't think about is that nearly 60% of the cost of cancer is actually non-medical and is not going to be covered by your insurance. We'll discuss the difference between medical and non-medical costs associated with cancer later on, but I want you to keep that figure in your head. 60% of the cost of cancer is non-medical. Last year alone, about 67% of all bankruptcies in the U.S. were tied to medical issues. One thing that people do not take into account is that people do not budget for cancer into their retirement or their everyday lives. I want you to keep that phrase in mind. People do not budget for a cancer diagnosis. That's one thing that Mitch goes over very, very well, and we're going to cover that a little bit later as well. So, when is the best time to sell a cancer plan? I think it's at the point of sale. I think Mitch would agree with me that when you're talking about Medicare Advantage. AEP is coming up. You've got about 7.5 weeks to get all of your Medicare Advantage and prescription drug clients squared away. Why not take an extra 5 or 10 minutes in your appointment and talk to them about a cancer plan at the point of sale? It's really easy to have a conversation with them because you've just explained how their Medicare Advantage benefits work. They are in a buying atmosphere because you're talking to them about their health insurance. So it is a great time to actually jump into the conversation about a cancer plan, show them how they can be exposed while they're on a Medicare Advantage plan if they were to get a cancer diagnosis, and actually increase their coverage and help them, quote unquote, budget for cancer if the worst should happen and they were to get a cancer diagnosis. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show how to properly present a cancer plan. And I've got Mr. Mitch Fink with us on the line today. Mitch, I'm getting a lot of, yeah, I can hear you. I'm getting a lot of feedback from you, though.
Yep, there's nothing going on here. So can you hear me clear now?
I sure can. Yep, this sounds good now. So let me introduce Mr. Mitch Fink. He is actually one of the top cancer salespeople in the entire country. Mitch, I think I'm hearing myself. Can you mute the speakers or whatever?
Okay, let me look.
Yeah, just mute yourself real quick, and I'll get done introducing you. But Mr. Mitch Fink is one of the top cancer sales agents in the entire country. He's been in the insurance industry for nearly 16 years now. Got his start with a company called PMA, which is Washington National's captive arm, and that's all they do is sell cancer insurance. and that's it. So he made a career out of going door to door selling cancer insurance. He broke every sales record there was to break at PMA during his time there, and lucky for us, he was able to leave PMA, become an independent broker, and come to work with Western Marketing. So he definitely knows what he's doing. And what we've done is we have taken his system that he uses and put it down on paper and made it available to all of you. So I'm going to switch over to Mitch's cancer presentation here. Mitch, I'm going to shut up and mute myself, and I'll let you take over.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Tyler. Yeah, as Tyler mentioned, I've made an entire career out of selling strictly just cancer insurance. And one thing that I have learned is, especially becoming an insurance broker, that we have access to a lot of products. And I can honestly say, being that I have access to all of these products, I still believe a cancer policy is one of the most easy products to sell on the market. And it's for the simple reason that, unfortunately, everyone knows somebody that's gone through cancer. And why Tyler and I have kind of put our heads together today to put this webinar on is you're dealing with folks who are over 65 years old, okay? Now, in their lifetime, there is a very good chance that either they've been affected by cancer, they've seen family members, they've seen friends, brothers, sisters, neighbors, folks that they've met at church, they've seen someone that has gone through cancer, and they see the impact that cancer can have. So that's why what we wanted to do today is we wanted to break down exactly how you properly present a cancer plan to create the need, develop the need enough for a client of yours during the Medicare Advantage presentation. We want to break it down enough to where they can see a need for it and purchase this plan. And this system that I've used for over a decade. We've wrote $26 million of cancer insurance as a sales team. I personally wrote $7 million myself, strictly using this system. Now, one thing you're going to notice about this system is it's very in-depth. It breaks down exactly what to say, when to say it, etc. So you'll see there's going to be parts of the presentation that are highlighted in bold, and those are actually what you recite, okay? So we're going to dive into it. You're going to see different sections of the training process, and I'm going to just kind of break them down and let you know why we do it that way and how you do it to be the most effective presentation on the market. So if you can go to the next slide, Tyler. So we kept this part called the warm-up in the presentation for a couple reasons. Now, obviously, you're going to be presenting a cancer plan to your Medicare Advantage clients. So chances are you've already sold the Medicare Advantage plan and you've already warmed up to them. But we left this section in the presentation, in the training script, for the simple fact that after the annual enrollment period, if you wanted to go back to your existing book of Medicare business, maybe some Med Sup business, this will teach you effectively how to warm up to your client to start the presentation and gain a rapport. So we're going to kind of breeze over the warm-up section because, as I mentioned, you're going to be already warmed up to your client because you've already sold them a Medicare Advantage plan. And we feel that it is best to present the cancer policy after you have made the Medicare Advantage sale. Reason being, if you've done an effective job of explaining the Medicare Advantage plan, they're going to be very well aware of co-payments, deductibles, max out of pockets. Then you can kind of use that information that you've already given to them to segue into a cancer presentation. So we're going to leave the warm-up section in here, but we're going to really breeze over this part because you've already warmed up to the customer. So if you want to skip to the next slide there we go. So this part, guys, on the call here is very important. Let's face it, when you have met up with this Medicare Advantage client, they didn't have a need to buy a cancer plan, okay? They're under the impression that you are there to help them with their Medicare Advantage plan and their Medicare Advantage plan only. Now, this presentation, you're going to find out, is extremely effective at developing the need. Okay, and uncovering the need, the reason why we developed this section of the presentation is because it's going to create an emotional tie to buying this plan, a cancer plan, okay? So uncovering the need is going to be you asking certain questions to draw out information in regards to cancer to make them realize that cancer is something that could potentially happen to them, and it's happened to people around them. So uncovering the need, you're going to start by asking a question. Tell me, Steve and Ethel, who in your family's ever had a personal experience in cancer or a heart disease or a stroke? The reason you're asking that, as mentioned earlier, is they're going to start sharing people that they have known go through cancer. Well, that starts to raise the emotional level. They're going to start to remember when they found out that their loved one had cancer, their brother, their sister, and it's going to start to raise awareness that, hey, cancer does affect a lot of people around here, okay? So then they're going to have that emotional tie once they decide whether or not they want to purchase a cancer plan or not. Want to go to the next slide, Tyler? Now, once you ask that first question, guys, about who do you know that's ever gone through cancer, currently, battling cancer, they're going to share somebody. They're going to say, well, my brother had cancer, okay? You can see here listed on this screen, there's a series of questions that you can ask them to once again raise the emotional tie to cancer. So if someone mentions to me, they say, well, Mitch, my brother's had cancer. Obviously, I'm going to be very sympathetic to that because I've had a lot of cancer in my family occur. I mean, I've had 3 uncles in 3 years pass away to cancer. So I'm very familiar with it. So I'm going to be sympathetic and say, I'm sorry to hear that, that your brother had gone through cancer. How long ago was that cancer heart diagnosis? What type of cancer was it? How long did the cancer go on? What type of treatments did they go and take? Where was the person treated? You're asking them questions that they can answer, okay? The reason these questions are so important is, once again, guys, we are raising the awareness of cancer can affect them because it's affected people around them. And then they'll have an emotional tie to purchasing a plan. And keep in mind, these questions are very easy, simple questions that a client can ask or answer because you're not going to go diving in on what medications they were taking. You don't want to dig too deep. You just want to ask certain simple questions to bring them back to the day that they found out their loved one or friend or neighbor had cancer. You want to go to the next slide, Tyler? Now, this is the second part of the message, okay? Now, I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit about what we're going to also offer you. In a separate file, we are going to be sending out a presentation booklet. It's about 5 pages, and this booklet can be printed or downloaded onto an iPad, however you would like. But we recommend taking what we call the presentation booklet into the home because there are 5 slides or 5 sheets that you're going to go and share with the potential client. And that information is going to also, once again, raise awareness as to why someone should have a cancer plan and how cancer insurance is going to be a good fit for their Medicare Advantage plan as well. So this section of the training process is where you would, once you've effectively created the need and you've asked them who they know that's ever gone through cancer, you're going to transition into grabbing your presentation booklet. And once again, guys, we are going to send you a PDF file that you can either print out or download onto an iPad to present to the potential client. And this is the section where you go over the sales presentation booklet. So once you have effectively created the need, okay, you've talked to them about people around the area that have had cancer, okay, whether it's their family members, their friends, their neighbors, people they've known at church. Obviously, they are familiar with cancer. So you're going to use the verbiage that's highlighted on the screen there to transition from creating the need to your actual sales presentation booklet provided by Western Marketing, okay? So once you've created the need, you're going to say, sounds like you folks are very familiar with cancer. What Cigna has done is put together a policy called cancer treatment, and it's simply your job to share the information. So at that point, what was that? I heard some feedback there.
So I wanted to jump in there real quick, Mitch. We put Cigna in this presentation because that was the preferred plan for an agency that we did with them. But this can actually be used for any cancer plan that you're familiar with, whether it be Cigna, Aetna, Bankers Fidelity, Washington National, whoever you want. This is all applicable to any cancer plan that you want to use.
Absolutely. This is a universal system. And for anyone on this call that is very interested in learning more about the products that are available for their state, certainly reach out to me. I have no problem. I'm very familiar with every cancer plan on the market, and I can help you with the enrollment systems and product knowledge, not a problem at all. So at this point, though, you're going to grab the sales presentation booklet, and you're going to go through that booklet. And at that point, it even shows you, like I said, this sales process that we use is very in-depth. It shows you exactly what to say, when to say it, and even how to present it. So right there on the screen, it says at this point, you're going to explain the fact sheets located in the sales presentation. Speak clearly with confidence and enthusiasm, and basically open your sales booklet that we're going to provide to you and read each page of the sales presentation kit. And one of the lines, the opening lines, is, as you know, cancer is often in the news. It affects more people every day. You want to move to the next slide? So the information here, guys, that you're seeing is literally what the presentation booklet looks like. You are going to read these statistics to that client. The reason why is, once again, you're making them raise awareness as to they can be affected by cancer. And you're going to read these statistics. It's very simple. You're going to read, men have a nearly 1 in 2 lifetime risk of getting cancer. Women have a 1 in 3, 1.6 million Americans. You're going to read each one of these statistics because you're letting them know that, hey, you have a man has a flip of a coin chance of getting cancer. A woman has a 1 in 3. Now they're starting to realize, wow, I have a flip of a coin chance of getting cancer. So you're raising the awareness of having a cancer plan. And that last paragraph there is, it says, the good news is thanks to early detection and advanced treatments, more people are surviving cancer. The 5-year relative survival rate of those diagnosed with cancer is 68%. Then you're going to flip the page and you're going to go to the 2 basic cost page, is what we call it. This page is extremely important. Reason why is because you have to let the client know that there's a difference between your Medicare Advantage plan and having a cancer plan. And this page is going to show them how the differences are. So you're going to read, fighting cancer can be very costly. There's 2 basic costs associated with cancer. The first cost is your medical expenses, which are going to be covered by your medical insurance or your Medicare Advantage plan, such as your doctor bills and your hospital bills. But then you're going to tell that client the second cost is the non-medical costs. These are the unavoidable expenses that cancer and heart attack and strokes that occur that come directly out of your pocket. And you're going to tell the client, Jim and Ethel, whatever their names are, if you don't remember anything else, please remember this last statistic. 60% of the total cost of cancer is non-medical in nature, and it comes out of your pocket. So at that point, they're going to start wondering, well, jeepers, 60% of the total cost is non-medical and it comes out of my pocket. You're going to flip the page then, and you're going to explain to them what these non-medical costs are. So if you want to turn the page, Tyler. So now this next page, now keep in mind, folks, every page is going to be one of the pages in your sales presentation booklet. So essentially, we're sitting in front of a client and we're flipping pages and we are showing them that, hey, outside of your Medicare Advantage plan, there are a lot of other costs. And this page in particular talks about the other costs that are associated with cancer outside of their Medicare Advantage plan. Because remember, this part of the presentation is to let them know you have your Medicare Advantage plan, but you also have to have a cancer plan to cover all of these additional costs. And at that point, folks, you're going to read some of these examples. You're going to mention that there are insurance shortfalls, deductibles, and co-payments. Well, at that point, it's going to be a great time to let them know that, hey, if you were to go through cancer and you had to do chemotherapy, you have to pay 20% of the cost of the chemotherapy up to your maximum out of pocket of $8,550. So you can guarantee that client is going to hit their maximum out of pocket if they have to use chemo. And let's face it, folks, chemo is almost a guaranteed thing when you're going through cancer. Now, you always have to be conscious of a lot of the folks that you're going to be selling a Medicare Advantage plan to, they don't budget $8,500 a year for cancer. A lot of them can barely afford to pay their bills the way it sits. But if they get cancer and they've got to pay 20% of the cost of it up to a total of $8,500, and then also pay for all of these other out-of-pocket expenses, that can send people into bankruptcy. They can drain their life savings. They can do all sorts of things based on these costs, because these are the costs that people don't budget for. The deductibles, the co-payments, the benefit limitations. Currently, just so you all on the call know, there's over 4,000 medications on the market right now that Medicare drug plans will not cover due to cancer. They're experimental trial medications. They're very expensive. Tyler and I were at a training, and I believe we were in, I think it was Idaho or Oregon. A client ended up having, they had sold a Medicare Plan G to a customer, and this gal got put on a medication that was going to cost her $1,200 a month out of her pocket for the rest of her life. And she was extremely upset at the agent because he never explained that there are other costs associated with cancer outside of a Medicare Plan G or a Medicare Advantage plan. So you're going to keep reading these examples. You're going to talk about transportation costs. The other thing you guys got to be conscious of, doctors send people all over the United States to get treatments. Now keep in mind, if they get sent all over the United States to get treatments, they may be out of network. Well, then you're having to deal with out of network, max out of pockets. There are all sorts of things: transportation, hotel stays, living expenses. Now, living expenses, I want to touch on this a little bit. Living expenses, you're talking to someone who has Medicare, okay, or is entering Medicare. They probably have their house payments and car payments and utilities, their house and cars taken care of. But it's a really good idea at this point, gang, to talk about the retirement, that they may drain their retirement having to pay for these out-of-pocket expenses, okay? Now, at this point, once you've explained to them that there are all these costs associated with cancer that are not covered by Medicare Advantage plans, you're going to flip the page and go to the next slide. You're going to flip the page and you're going to explain to them that there are ways to cover these expenses. And inside the book here, you're going to see this is the last page of your presentation booklet. You're going to say there are several ways to pay for these out-of-pocket expenses, which include drawing on life savings. When I'm talking to someone that's on Medicare, I really stress to them that you may have to draw on your life savings or your retirement funds to pay for all these out-of-pocket expenses when it comes to cancer. The other thing you can tell them is they may have to sell assets. Or what you can recommend is that they can transfer that risk to Cigna with a program called cancer treatment. At this point, guys, you're going to grab the brochure. And for everyone on this call, we can help you get set up with Cigna, whatever carrier that you would like to market. And then we can get brochures sent to your home, whatever you may need. But this part of the presentation is where you grab the brochure and you're going to explain the benefits. Now, when you grab that brochure, very, very important, you have to explain on the front of this brochure some verbiage that you're going to need to memorize. And it says right here, this is the part of the presentation is important because the verbiage used to explain the front of the brochure needs to be memorized verbatim. And it's very important to memorize the verbiage for two reasons. The verbiage used to explain to the prospect the difference between their current coverage versus a supplemental plan. Also, the verbiage explains that this policy pays cash directly to them and not the doctors and the hospitals. So when I grab my brochure and tell them, this is the plan, it's called cancer treatment, I'm going to recite the verbiage on this slide. I'm going to tell them many folks who take a closer look at the coverage, they start this policy because of how it works and what it has to offer. This brochure is a gauge or a guide as to what you will receive when cancer, heart attack, or stroke is diagnosed. Now, here's where it gets very important. You have to recite this paragraph to them so that they understand the difference between Medicare Advantage plan and what this cancer plan is going to do for them. So you're going to tell them, as you know, I'm sure you're like many of the folks in the area we do business with, you have a Medicare Advantage plan now, and most people have a good plan. But as you know, the major medical insurance and Medicare Advantage plans are designed to pay anywhere from 80 to 100% of the doctor bills and the hospital bills. Why cancer treatment is so popular and so many folks are taking advantage of this plan is because cancer treatment sends cash directly to your home above and beyond your Medicare Advantage plan. And you're going to remind them the reason why this plan sends cash directly to their home is because, according to the American Cancer Society, 60% of the total cost of cancer is non-medical, and it can come out of your pocket. And that's why folks want and need this cash sent directly to their home. At that point, guys, you're going to want to remind them that this plan is going to send cash to their home, and remind them that their Medicare Advantage plan has 20% co-insurance when it comes to chemo. They've got deductibles to pay, co-payments. Remind them of the fact that there are experimental medications that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's why this plan is going to send cash directly to their home, because they're going to need it. Because once again, you're going to hear me repeat this a lot, people do not budget for cancer. They don't even think they're going to get it until it happens, and then they end up having to pay all these out-of-pocket expenses. So at this point, when you have recited that verbiage on the front of the brochure, you are going to simply just go through the benefits. And there are about 2 pages that tell you the exact verbiage, what to use to explain these benefits. Okay, now remember, this verbiage is in regards to the Cigna product. We have verbiage that's in regards to all products on the market that Western Marketing offers. Okay, so at this point, you're going to start talking to them about how the plan works. There's a lump sum, there's hospital benefits, there's surgical benefits. We can go to the next slide. There's treatment benefits, transplant benefits, chemotherapy, radiation. Now keep in mind, when I do explain these benefits, I am circling every dollar figure that's on that brochure. Now, I always thought that was kind of funny how my managers, when I was trained 12 years ago how to sell cancer insurance, they always told me, Mitch, you got to circle those dollar figures. The reason why we want to circle those dollar figures with a Sharpie marker as you're going through them is because you want to remind them that this plan is going to pay cash money directly to their home. And you want to remind them also the reason why we're sending cash to your home is because your Medicare Advantage plan has deductibles, co-payments. It has maximum out-of-pocket of $8,500. You're going to need a lot of extra cash to pay for all the other non-medical costs that go along with cancer. Now, as you're working through the brochure and you're explaining the benefits and you're explaining the features such as waiver of premium, continuation of care, you're really just walking through the brochure. Now, this part of the presentation is extremely important. One thing I want to be very clear, certain states have return of premium and certain states don't have return of premium option available for cancer insurance. We can work individually with you to find a policy that does have return of premium. Return of premium is a feature that is just, in my opinion, one of the greatest features to ever put in a plan. If you're unfamiliar with what return of premium is, it's simply every premium that the client will pay for this plan will be returned to them minus any claim on once they pass away or after 20 years, depending on the plan you sell them. But I love this feature because it kind of makes the plan act as like a savings account, because every dime you put into it, they're going to get it all back, or whoever they list as a beneficiary is going to get that money returned to them. So that return of premium feature makes it very easy for a client to spend the money on a cancer plan, knowing that, you know, as long as they don't use the plan, every dime they're paying into it's going to either go to them or it's going to go to whoever they list as their beneficiary. So it's really kind of a closing tool, that return of premium. So if you are living in a state where return of premium is offered, this is the verbiage that you would use. At this point, I really slow down and I start talking to them about the return of premium. And I really build up how great this feature is. And you can see the verbiage that I use here. It says, after you've completed explaining the benefits in the brochure, now is the time to move into showing the return of premium. And I use this verbiage. I'll tell them, Jed and Ethel, you've seen the policy can pay thousands and thousands of dollars when you have cancer. But let me show you what folks really love about the plan. What would you say if I told you that when you pass away, providing you never use the plan, all of the premiums you paid into this plan would go to your spouse or your family, less any claims. We're proud to offer you a return of premium benefit. At that point, they're going to get excited. They're going to say, well, gosh, so the cost of this plan, like someone's going to get that money back if I don't use it? Yeah, absolutely. And I tell them that's why so many folks who have the Advantage plans go ahead with this plan. It's a closing tool, okay? So we can go to the next slide.
Mitch, before we go to the next slide, if you could take 30 seconds and explain why return of premium can also be used as a prospecting tool to get in front of their beneficiaries.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up, Tyler. So I'll tell you guys, this is probably the absolute best referral tool you will ever see, ever. So when you explain the return of premium, and if you do sell a return of premium product, they are going to be required to list a beneficiary. At that point, you should obviously ask them who they want as the beneficiary, but I will actually have that client call their beneficiary or send a text message to that beneficiary, letting them know that they just listed them as a beneficiary. And I also have them set up an appointment for me to meet up with the beneficiary to explain what needs to take place when this client passes away. Now, why that is so huge is because they're setting an appointment for you to go sit with somebody that is the closest to them. We close like 90% of those appointments because when we show up at that beneficiary's home, we are going to tell them, hey, Jed and Ethel sent me over here. They have this plan. They wanted me to explain to you how this plan works and what needs to take place when they pass away. And if you use this sales presentation to explain how the plan works, you'll sell every beneficiary. And what's so cool about that is if you sell that beneficiary, they have to list the beneficiary. Our sales team literally runs beneficiary appointments back to back every single week. So if you can get good at explaining the return of premium and have your clients set up the appointments to go explain the beneficiary to whoever they list, you could the sales generated from the return of premium feature and beneficiary are endless because beneficiary sales lead to more beneficiary sales. So it is absolutely a dynamite prospecting tool and a referral tool. So thanks for adding that, Tyler. Now, the closing sequence. Let's face it, this part of the presentation we put in here for the simple fact that not everybody's just going to jump and say, yep, I'll take the plan, okay? If you can master the art of closing, you'll go from a good salesperson to a great salesperson. This section is going to give you ammunition on how to close a sale. But this section, the closing sequence, is going to show you how you transition into writing down a price, how to ask for the sale properly. Because I can't tell you how many agents, I've trained over 130 agents. We wrote $26 million in business. I can't tell you how many times an agent will give an effective presentation and then they don't ask for the sale. It's like the most important thing that they're forgetting. So this section of the training manual is going to teach you how to ask for the sale and how to correctly write pricing down and so forth to ask for the sale. So you can see the verbiage in front of you. This part of the presentation is where you're going to ask their age, because remember, the age determines the price. Once you guys start to get familiar with the carrier you're going to be using, you're going to realize that age is important to know. And I was taught by a veteran salesperson, probably one of the slickest ways to ask someone's age without just saying, hey, how old are you? You're going to use the verbiage I've listed. Jed and Ethel, if you don't mind me asking, how many birthday candles are you each going to put in your cake this year? And they're going to laugh. They're going to have, it releases the tension a little bit. At that point, they're going to tell you their age, okay? Once you have their age, you're going to flip the brochure over and you're going to write down 3 lump sums and 3 levels of coverage. So just so you know, the way the Cigna plan is designed is you have a lump sum diagnosis and you have all of the indemnity benefits that go along with it. So you're gonna write down 3 levels of coverage for that individual to pick from. Now that little thing is very important because I've trained agents before where they want to write down 5 different levels to pick from. Do not do that. Give them 3 levels to pick from. It's either the top, the middle, or the bottom. It's very easy for them to make a decision when you break it into 3 levels of coverage to pick from. At that point, you're going to explain to them the levels of coverage that are offered so they can pick which one's going to be best suited for their family. So it says here, transition to explaining the levels of coverage. And you're going to say to them, what I explained to you is the 700 level. And then you're going to show them the benefits. We do have other levels available, which we have the 400 level, which is half the benefits I've shown you, and we have the 200 level, which is half of the 400. So now you've explained to them kind of what they're going to be able to pick from. But then there's a section here called the company credibility section. This is very important to talk about. You want to talk a little bit about the company that you're going to sell them. And this takes literally, guys, 1 minute to do it. The reason why you do this is because it puts credibility in the company that you're selling. And remember, if you're selling a return of premium product, they're keeping this plan until they pass away. So they need to know that the company is a very stable, strong company to get involved with. So you're going to share the verbiage that's listed in front of you, and it goes like this. Now, I'm sure you've already heard of Cigna Health Insurance. The company is over 225 years old. They currently have 22 million customers. They're 13 on the Fortune 500. They're a very strong, stable company with excellent service, customer service based rate in the United States. That's literally all you got to say to them. And now they're comfortable with who they're going to potentially purchase a policy from. So you want to go to the next slide. Now you're going to transition to looking up the rates and asking for the sale. So you're going to simply use the verbiage in front of you. Folks, please allow me to look up some pricing while I take a look at this policy. How do you normally do this type of business, monthly or annually? You're asking them a question to see if you're going to give them a monthly rate or an annual rate. At that point, you're going to look up the rates based on their age. You're going to write them on the brochure, and you're going to transition into closing the sale. Now, one thing I'm very proud about, and I think Tyler would agree with this, because when Tyler got a chance to read my closes, the closes I use to close the sale, they are very good and they're very effective and they're simple to administer. These things work well. So like I mentioned to you earlier, not everyone is going to purchase a plan. You might have to close on them a little bit to close the sale. Well, these closes, just so you know, are not a hard close. All you're really doing is submitting common sense to them for them to make an educated decision to move forward to purchasing today. So you're going to transition to what we call the standard close. This is where you're going to ask them to buy the plan. You're going to say, most families I sit with are going to go with a 700 level or a 400 for 2 reasons. The first reason is very simple. When cancer, heart attack, or stroke occurs, you're going to want all the benefits this plan provides. You can go to the next slide. You're going to keep reading the close. The second reason is, according to the American Cancer Society, over 60% of the total cost of cancer is non-medical and it comes out of your pocket. That's why so many families want and need this additional coverage. And with the return of premium feature, as long as you don't use the plan, you're going to get all that premium sent back to your family. So Jed and Ethel, of the levels I've explained to you today, which one's going to best fit your needs? Isn't that a smooth transition on how to ask for the sale? You've reminded them of why people want the plan. You've reminded them of that return of premium. Now you're simply going to ask them, of these levels I've explained, which one is going to best fit your needs? Now, one of 2 things are going to happen, folks. They're either going to say, yep, I want to move forward with it. Well, at that point, welcome your new client, Cigna, start the application process. or they may say they need to think about it. Okay. Now, that's okay. One thing I want everyone on this call to realize is a lot of times when people give you objections, I don't look at them as objections. I look at them as hesitations. They just need a little bit more information to make the decision today. So you're going to go to the second close. We can keep going there, Tyler. Go down to the two things to consider. I believe it's here. Just so you know, Tyler's going through basically a section we call closing the sale. This section, it just explains to you how to properly close, okay? It will tell you all sorts of, I guess, reasons as to why people do not buy. I left this in there so that you can get better at closing the sale. And a lot of times people are going to basically just give you objections, okay? You want to go to the two things to consider, Tyler? Great, next slide. Interest on your money. Okay, right there. That's good enough.
Okay.
So just so you guys know, everyone on this call is going to have access to this PDF. This PDF and PowerPoint is going to give you closes. These closes, like this one's called the interest on your money. So if someone were to tell me, if they were to say, Mitch, we want to think about it, you're going to recite these closes. And I am telling you, these closes work. You would not believe how someone's decision making starts to shift once you have done a few of these closes. So there are many closes in here. One's called the interest on your money. This one's called the two things to consider. These are closes that you can submit to them when they give you an objection. And I'm telling you, these things do work very well. For example, the interest on the money close is one of my favorites as well. So if someone were to tell me, Mitch, we want to think about it, okay? What I'm going to say to that client is, folks, I understand how you feel. A lot of folks have felt the same way. All this plan is going to cost you is the interest on your money. For example, the $100 cost of this plan, if we were to take that money and put it into an interest-bearing account, what would they give you for an interest rate? 0.25%, 0.5%. Most banks won't give you over 1%. A lot of folks feel for that little bit of interest they are losing by having their money in the savings account, they would much rather have their money in this policy because the benefits that you would receive off the plan will far exceed any premiums or interest you would have with your money sitting in a savings account. So at that point, you're going to ask them, folks would rather have this coverage and never need it, which level is best going to be fit for your family's needs. You're going to ask them for the sale again. So we've listed in this training manual closes that you can recite to your client to close the sale. And like I mentioned, these are not hard closes. You're just simply submitting things for their consideration to buy from you today. And like I mentioned, there's no better time to do these closes because they've already purchased a Medicare Advantage plan from you. And you've explained to them that there's other costs associated with cancer. That's why you're going to use these closes. So you can go to the next slide, Tyler. Next slide, if you could. All right. You'll see here there are a few different closes. So we don't need to go through each close, but just know that these are going to be in the PDFs that we send you. And I highly recommend studying these closes and learning them verbatim, because you are going to have people that say they want to think about it, or they want to talk it over, or maybe they're just not ready to purchase. Well, you need to submit these reasons, these closes, as reasons why they should go ahead and purchase the plan today. It will enhance your closing percentage dramatically if you can learn these closes. We can go to the next slide. We'll just skip the closes. If you want to get down to the income example, that would be it. Okay, perfect. Last slides here, we've just got a couple slides left. I think this is probably one of the most important slides because it's going to show you why it's beneficial for you, the agent, to sell this plan. Okay. Now, Tyler and I, before this call, we talked and we really kind of narrowed it down to, people should be seeing 3, 4, 5 Medicare Advantage clients a day. So what we've done is we've put together a section called compounding factors. And these are statistics of how much income you can make by just presenting this X amount of times per week. And the number that we're using here, 10 presentations a week, if you present a cancer plan 10 times a week, which would mean only 2 times a day, we feel that most agents are presenting their Medicare Advantage plans 4 or 5 times a day. But if you just were to present your cancer plan twice a day, 10 times a week, okay, we know statistically we close 40% of the people we present to. Now, as you get better at presenting this cancer plan, your closing percentage is going to go up. My closing percentage right now is 80%. I close 80% of the people that I present this plan to. But the national average using this sales system is a 40% closing ratio. So if you were to present the plan to 10 individuals per week, and you had a 40% closing ratio, you're going to have 4 weekly sales. Our average application size, and these are real statistics. These statistics are based on my own agency. We do this every week. We have an average application size of 1,250. If you did this for 30 weeks, now I know that the annual enrollment period is 7 weeks, but if you did this for just 30 weeks, a little over half of the year, and you presented 2 people a week, you're going to generate about $150,000 of premium in those 30 weeks. And by the way, that would mean you qualify for the Western marketing trip. Yay, that's great news. Now, the commissions that we have set here, just as an example, is 30%, okay? So if you're getting a 30% commission on every sale and you write $150,000 of business, your first year income off of cancer sales is an additional $45,000 in commissions. Now, there's no secret. If you increase your presentations, your income is going to go up. If you boost that from 10 presentations a week to 15, you're going to make 6 sales, okay? $1,250 average application size over 30 weeks is $225,000 of annualized premium. Your commission now goes up at a 30% commission. You've made $67,500 in just cancer commissions. That's not even including the money you've made off your Medicare Advantage sales and so forth. Next slide.
Now, like before we move to the next slide, just to be clear, we use 30% as just an example. We want to be cognizant of people's hierarchy structures and the way that they pay their agents and everything. So that's just an example. Depending on your contract level or how your hierarchy set up, it could be more than that, it could be less. We just threw 30% in there just because it's a nice round number, easy to use. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
Absolutely. So the next slide. Okay, there we go. So let's talk about renewal income. The one thing that I absolutely love about cancer insurance renewals is you're vested from day one. And you have to remember as well that if you have return of premium, if you sell a return of premium product, and that client knows that they are going to get 100% of that premium sent back to their family when they pass away, guys, they're going to keep the plan the rest of their life. So what better for the agent to know that they're selling a product that is going to pay them renewals for the rest of that client's life? So the renewal income, we put together a section that's going to show you what your potential renewal income could be for just doing this for 30 weeks out of a year. We do this all 52 weeks out of a year. This is based off of 30 weeks a year, okay? So obviously you can see here your first year renewal income, and once again, we've used a 4% renewal commission. Could be higher, could be less, depending on the carrier, depending on how your hierarchy is set up, but we use 4% as an average. So if you write $150,000 in business at a 4% renewal, you're gonna make $6,000 of renewal that next year. If once again you present this plan to 10 people with a 40% closing ratio, you know you're going to make $45,000 in commissions. If you add that to your first year renewal, now your second year of selling cancer insurance, you're making $51,000. You can see the illustration, it just compounds. The third year, once again, this is all based on only showing this to 2 people per day. Third year product commissions is $45,000. If you add your first and second year renewal income to your third year commissions, you're at $57,000. Next slide. It keeps going, guys. The longer you do this, your fourth year product commissions, you add it to renewal years 1 through 3, your fifth year, you add it to, you all know how renewals work. But after 5 years, your renewal income and your commission income, $70,000 a year just for selling cancer insurance. And remember, this is on top of the Medicare Advantage sales that you're making and the Medicare supplement sales that you're making. So we've broken it down. After 5 years of showing this product to 10 people a week, your total income basically $70,000, of which is $24,000 of that is renewal income, and you're vested for life from day one. So these renewals, guys, stay with you forever. So every year you do this, you're making more and more guaranteed vested renewal income. And that's why we wanted to bring this product and bring the sales presentation to you in this training script, because we know it works and it's going to generate a lot more income for you and your family. So we could open it up to any questions that you guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're getting close to the hour mark here, and like I said, we want to be cognizant of everybody's time. Mitch, go ahead and mute yourself real quick. We do have a few questions that come in, and one thing I do want to say before we get into the questions is I know we went over a lot of information pretty quickly today, so I will be emailing a copy of this presentation out to everybody, as well as a copy of the presentations that Mitch and I went over today, so you'll all have the PDF and the recorded version of this, but I do want to address some of the questions that have come in now. First question says, I don't know of a plan that has an $8,300 out-of-pocket max in Colorado. I would agree with that. The vast majority of plans that I've seen in every state don't have an $8,300 out-of-pocket max. That was just the absolute maximum that CMS would allow this year. Most plans have much lower than that. In Colorado specifically, I would have to check on that and get back to you. Second question says, I'm under the impression that CMS does not allow us to discuss any other product at the time of a Medicare Advantage appointment. Am I wrong? So you can discuss any health-related product in that Medicare Advantage appointment as long as the client has agreed to it and signed the scope of appointment that allows you to do so. Health-related product would be a Medicare Advantage or Medicare supplement, a prescription drug plan, and it also includes cancer, heart attack, and stroke, dental, vision, and hearing, or a hospital indemnity plan. Those would all be allowable to speak with somebody at the time of a Medicare Advantage sale, as long as the client has signed off on it on the scope of appointment and agreed to it. I got another question here that asks if cancer plans are going to be added to the quote tool. I believe, Marie, what you're referring to is the CSG actuarial quote tool, to where you can quote Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, hospital indemnity, that kind of stuff. At this time, I do not know of any plans that CSG has to add cancer to the quote tool. I do know it's been brought up. I don't know that they plan on adding that or not. So at this time, I'm going to say that's a no.
One thing go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add also, with the Cigna product too, as far as quoting, they have a quote tool called a Quick Quote, and it's an app that basically you download on your phone or your iPad. And it's like, it literally takes 2 seconds to generate a quote. You type their age in, and it knows the zip code based on location. And literally, you can select the level of coverage you want, everything right there. So the rates are never wrong. You put the zip code, date of birth in there, and then it'll give you every option that Cigna offers. And most carriers, like Washington National, Bankers Fidelity, they all have a quick quote tool now, so it's very simple to get rates generated quick to get that sale closed.
Okay, thank you, Mitch. Just had another question come in that asked if there was a tool out there that compares the cancer plans and their benefits. At this time, there's not one that I know of, but if you do have questions on the different plans and the rates and everything, me and my team and Mitch and everybody are very, very familiar with all the cancer plans that are out there, and would be able to give you a very, very good idea of the best available plans in your area. So We are right at the 1 hour mark. So, like I said, we want to be cognizant of everybody's time. We certainly appreciate everybody jumping on the webinar today. I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to speaking with you all. I definitely want to make sure that you're comfortable with everything we went over today. So feel free to give me a call, anybody on my team. If you do need a little bit more in-depth training, especially in the next couple of days before we get started with AEP and taking applications here, Mitch and I and my team would be happy to speak with you. So feel free to give us a call at 800-852-7152. Again, that's 800-852-7152. We will be here, every day from 7:30 to 5. So, look forward to speaking to y'all again. Thanks for joining us, and I will give you your afternoon back. Mitch, thanks for doing this, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.